A warm welcome to you e-loungers as we kick off this year's first installment of the e-lounge, which is one of our knowledge share platforms. As Mallory Blackman once said, reading is an exercise in empathy and walking in someone else's shoes for a while. Today, we walk in the shoes of author, inspirational South African businesswoman, Gloria Tomatoe Serobe, on a book, An Ode to My Mother-in-Law, Winnie Serobe, A Mentorship of Love and Honor. The book brings to life the story of Winnie Serobe and pays tribute to a life well lived. Winnie Serobe is a woman who we may not read about when we look at the heroes and heroines of this country, but she has served those around her daily. Born in Gugulethu Township in 1959, an exemplary woman herself, Gloria Serobe is a founding member and CEO of WIPHOLD and a leading activist for community upliftment, empowerment of women, and sustainable transformation. WIPHOLD is a Black women-owned investment company which invests in key sectors of the South African economy such as infrastructure, agriculture, and financial services to support the influence of women in those areas. Established in 1994, WIPHOLD's founding coincided with the end of the apartheid and the country's first democratic election with universal suffrage. Gloria Serobe holds a BCom from the University of Transkei and an MBA from Rutgers University. She has been recognized for her leadership in business and community activism with numerous awards and several honorary degrees. In her book, Gloria Serobe refers to her mother-in-law as Mama, the woman who reframed marriage and family for her as a young Makoti and taught her how to cook traditional Tswana delicacies such as chotlo and ting, while also mentoring her in the business world. It is important for every single one of us entering marriage to come with a spirit of humility and being teachable, says Serobe. Remember that those who deserve to lead do not just read, but are seekers of diverse perspectives, open to learning and sharing their learnings for the betterment of all.
A very warm welcome to the e-lounge. This is our very first installment of the e-lounge in 2024, and today we are joined by Mama Gloria Serobe, a trailblazer in the business of South Africa. Mama, a very warm welcome to you, and thank you for joining us in the e-lounge.
Thank you very much, Biwe. I'm looking forward to the
Absolutely, Mama. Absolutely. Firstly, Mama, you could have written a book about business, about leadership, about women empowerment, about investments. You could have written your own biography, but you chose to write a book to honor your mother-in-law. Why did you write this book?
There's a number of reasons why I wrote the book. Firstly, I've been wanting to do it. And when I looked at the time, it's now my mother-in-law's 10-year anniversary.
Yes.
Since she passed on in August 9, 2013. So I was getting anxious that 10 years comes and goes, and I have been planning to do it and I haven't done it. So I needed to meet that deadline, which I'm happy that I did.
Yeah.
But the second reason for the subject for me is that this is a subject nobody wants to touch.
Yeah.
But it is a subject in everybody's lives. There's many views around this relationship, and the narrative we have is a negative one. And I think the people who have positive experiences, that narrative is not on the table.
Yeah.
There's been great relationships of mothers-in-laws and daughters-in-laws. There's been horrible ones, but the narrative that we really have is a negative one. And I actually felt that it's a topic necessary as a conversation, including how to improve on this, because this relationship is quite deep. It's not about two people, it's quite deep into family relationships. That's why I wrote the book.
Okay. Thank you, Mama. Having read the book, there's many themes that come out in the book, and the way that you've laid out the book, you've got different sections. There's a lessons part, and there's parts where are dedicated to your mother-in-law. There's about 2 or 3 themes that I would like us to frame our conversation around. And I want everybody listening today to take out your notebooks and please listen carefully, because this is a toolbox, I think, in how to navigate, as Mama said, this often a relationship that is often tainted to the negative between the mothers-in-law and the daughters-in-law. So take out your notebooks, take some notes, and keep your questions, because we are going to continue this conversation in a broader scale. But Mama, the themes I would like us to frame our conversations around is about the role of mothers in society as perseverers of knowledge and also builders of society, relationships, as you pointed out, community work, and education as an emancipator, and the role of women in as far as that is concerned. But a little bit more about your mother-in-law. In preparing for this interview, we came across, or I did come across, a saying by one psychotherapist based in the US, Esther Perel, where she says that relationships is the new currency in business and in families. But her emphasis in the talk, in the context of the talk, was in business. Just share with us how important it is, firstly, the dynamic around relationships, mothers, daughters-in-law, and then I want us to bring it back to a business context, the importance of and the value of relationships in that context.
The way I see it, viewer, is that so for example, when I got married in 1987, my mother-in-law had been there 32 years.
Yes.
They got married in 1955, I got married in 1987. Of course, got 5 children by then. She's been here in this family navigating this life of being a Serobe. And so when I come in 1987, I have the same job of fitting into this family.
Yes.
The expectation, remember now, from wives, which is why the marriage, is that you will come and enhance the life of this family. You will build it. We are expected to constructively do something better with this family, and it takes a whole lot of things to do that.
Yeah.
And so the way I saw it is that, how about this one who's been here 32 years already? She's been in this path. She's been in my position. The fact that she is here might mean she's done a wonderful job. Of course, in my personal life she has, because she's given me this gorgeous man as a husband. So I can only look up to her in terms of how did she make it work and take those lessons from her. That's why I see a mother-in-law as a mentor, because she's been in this path before. And you're expected to do the same and even better than her. And how about learning from her? Yeah. And this is how I actually view her. The issue of getting integrated into a family which has got its own ways of doing things over many years and generations. It's not just about a fleeting visit. You are now here, and you have to be part of this. And so I just thought that we do not take it for granted that you can have somebody who holds your hand to do this and learn as much from her as possible. And that is how I actually view the mother-in-law.
You speak a lot, Mama, in the book about the number of years that Mama Winnie Serobe spent in her marriage, having been married there 32 years before you joined the family. So it's an institution, and therefore you are honing into this institutional memory of this matriarch, who then passes the reins to you. One of the things I just want you to share with us is how did then this relationship with your mother-in-law fuel your own choices, decisions in your career and in your leadership journey as a woman in business?
So there is there's an expectation when you come in, what we call kotiza to
yes.
To be inducted into this home, and a whole lot of things are expected. You know, how you work, how you cook, how you clean the house, and so on and so on. In my case, it was a bit different. Yeah. And I think it's in most of us actually, because I came straight from university, and now I'm getting married. I haven't perfected this side of being a home maker, as in all the things that are meant to be done. So there's a lot of disasters that she actually saw. Really, not. Yeah, I don't want to get into that, but she could see that.
Yes.
And so she then directed my attention more to her community work.
Okay.
She was a busy community worker. If it's not the Blind Association, it's a Gautrain. If it's not the Consumer Union things or Black Housewives League, all those things, right? WCA, all those things that those mothers were activists in their own right, at dealing with the ills of society, and so on. Now, remember, at least as I understand it, when we come from university, we're not as familiar with the challenges of society.
True.
Because you are sheltered, you are quarantined in a campus, and so community work shows you that.
Yeah.
So as she was dragging me along to these meetings, and most of them are not well resourced, to be honest. So sometimes you are a minute taker. In this minute, we are making coffee and tea and scones. In other ones, you are bringing a recording equipment, but you are part of the conversations, you are part of the meetings. I learned a lot from that.
Okay.
And what then it did for me is that even as I'm doing my own cold career of being in finance, of being in banking, of being, you can say, had nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
But this, what I learned here, tended to inform my decisions in my own work.
Okay.
In the sense of that, for example, even when I was recently running the Solidarity Fund, which challenged everyone, COVID, nobody knew what to do with it, so we had to act. And do all sorts of cover the whole country, because everyone, rich, poor, black, white, was challenged by this.
True.
And so as we make these decisions as a Solidarity Fund, I was preoccupied with inclusivity. Can we make sure that while we can serve urban areas, can we make sure that the rural areas are taken care of? Can we make sure that those who can do things online because they've been to school and are literate in computers, can we also make sure that who don't have that opportunity are poor and are sitting somewhere, they have the same access to things?
Yeah.
And so that always gets into my decisions, whether it is at Whiphold. As you can see, Whiphold, there's a lot of inclusivity thing about it. It always is about, have you left somebody behind? Because those community organizations were dealing with matters of access. They were dealing with matters of being excluded, of being discriminated, of not being heard, all of that. Yeah. Whether you're sitting in YWCA now or Consumer Union, you were dealing with those issues of people who did not have equal access to things. Yeah. And that 24 hours a day occupies me about each decision I make. Can I make sure that there is equal access to the extent that I can, and in a manner that fits that particular society? So if you go to the rural areas, loud hailers are very important, for example. Yes. Of course, in Sentin, people will take you to police station now if you give them.
You're breaking the bylaws there.
Breaking the bylaws. But there, those traditional leaders, those rural people, the only way to communicate where they couldn't meet like this, the loud hailers were very important. So we had to provide loud hailers, make sure communication happens here, just like it is happening here.
Staying with the theme of inclusivity and diversity, Mama, you say that in the book, Mama Winnie recognized that you are a new Makoti, a new daughter she is inheriting. You are gifted in terms of the skills that she could see, which are useful in her community work. But in the domestic side, there are shortcomings. But she doesn't do what we normally see, right, in terms of exposing you or pushing you harder in that regard. Instead, she gets somebody to help you in preparing those meals and dealing with large families and dishing up for a lot of people and so on. I want us to bring this notion of supporting people in the workplace and also in families, in focusing, especially in performance management, focusing in their, let's say, good side or better
Strong
skills,
points.
the strong points, yes, thank you, Mama. And then how then you bring in the support in terms of where they have deficiencies. Can you share with us a little bit about that?
So the biggest discord on this Makoti mother-in-law relationship usually comes at the beginning.
Okay.
Where you are being surveilled, I don't know how to call it, you're being monitored, you're being
under the spotlight,
are you
literally.
good or bad or something like that. And usually this good or bad is always biased on, can you do house chores?
Yes.
That time you are just small. You haven't been doing this before. You are learning.
Yeah.
And you are cooking for a big community is a particular skill.
Yes.
And cleaning after that is a particular skill. If you have not been in that vicinity, you may be found wanting. In my case, I was.
Yeah.
And but where it gets into a nightmare is when then this family starts to make judgments on you, how useless then you are, and so on and so on, almost as if this is the only thing you need to bring to this family.
Yes.
And this is where it goes wrong, because there's lots you can bring to this family, and this is not one of them.
Yeah.
And I think then on the other hand, you find that sometimes also the Makotis themselves have an attitude towards this house chore thing. And it shouldn't be, it is called hospitality. You are the wife here, you've got 100 people here, you are supposed to provide, you're supposed to give them comfort. It is correct to expect you to be able to provide that, except that nobody said you must do it yourself. And so what my mother-in-law did was to make sure that I get supported properly, and while still doing the house chores, but the reliance on me, I always said, I think she read quickly that if we think there's going to be lunch at 1 o'clock, at this rate, there will be no lunch. So let's make sure that there is support
system
around her. And but can I use her in those areas where I think I need her most at the same time? So while I'm teaching her this, can I use her in this fashion? For example, there's one meal, I come from Cape Town. So we don't do eating there.
Yes.
But there are Sutus that do eating. And eating is very important here. I've never seen it being done. So yes, Urahadi was asked to teach me how to do it.
Yeah.
And it's quite easy now that I know. It's quite easy. It's not a big drama.
Yeah.
But those lessons, those things you must learn. You cannot have an attitude towards that. It's just that it is not your strongest point.
Yes.
It's the same thing at work. You can't be expected to know everything. But if your boss is a good person, he will direct you to that part where you are most strongest.
Yeah.
While at the same time, they are not taking the pressure off you in terms of learning everything. I think it's the same thing with the home, that you are expected to kind of like know everything.
Yes.
But you can be pressurized to such an extent that you don't even want to wake up tomorrow morning because they are going to criticize you or stuff like that.
Yeah.
So she gave me some slack in that sense. And it made it to work for me because I was comfortable to learn, and I was comfortable to give on that part where I am most useful.
Yeah. There is a running theme throughout the book, Mama, about having a teachable spirit, and we'll come back to it. But just to cement what you've just said now about being accepted in the Serobe family, I mean, if I may quote you in page 15, you say that the Serobes let me know I was wanted as a daughter-in-law. And you, like many Makotis, were given a name, Mahotso, which means peace. What does this symbolize to you, do you think, in terms of being given this name and the years now that you've spent in the Serobes?
It's one of the things as the modern women, we are starting to trample on the traditions.
Okay.
We're trampling on the traditions and we're not replacing them with anything.
Else.
We're just trampling on them. Now, the thing is that whole process of how that marriage is conducted is very important. And so one of those things is how you come into this house. It's not like driving a car into a driveway or something like that. They are very formal.
Yeah.
Even in the Xhosa traditions, very, very formal. Before you enter this yard, my senior mother-in-law, my mother's mother-in-law,
Yes.
was on the other side of the yard in the home. And she stands there, she says things welcoming me into this home. And somewhere there's also some kind of prayer appealing to the ancestors to accept you in and that you are coming. And in that process, they give you a name. And in this case, my name was called Mahotso. Then they open the gate, then you are in, you are being what there's ululating, there's all sorts of things. On the Xhosa side, same thing. But there's something that I like there, is that the husband will come and give you a spear.
Yes.
And you go in front of that kraal and you put that spear there. That now is territory now.
Yeah.
We are being told now, this is yours now, right?
Yes.
But what this means is that if your husband married second time, that wife can't go there. Will not have that. There's only one wife who can do that.
Wow.
It's a territorial arrangement. It has been declared that you are the wife of this home.
Okay.
And it's that formal. It's that formality. So I like that because we tend to want to jump these things. And because really it's a mambo jumbo, I guess, or something. But you know, when somebody in my family calls me Mahotso,
Yes.
it brings a lot of warmth in my heart.
Okay.
Because that is what they prefer to know me to be, a Mahotso.
No, thank you, Mama. One of the moments we come across in the book that show the relationship between yourself and your mother-in-law at its infancy, you tell a story of how in the Serobe family, the tradition is that they buy their wedding gown for their new bride, which for me, it is something new. I wasn't aware that families do that. The notion is that, well, the bride must, get their things and lobola has been paid in any event. But I wanted just to share this little bit of story with us, how she took you to buy the dress, keeps the dress, and now on the wedding day she's bringing the dress. But there are changes, and your reaction to these changes, which I think, to your point about the modern women I don't think it would have gone down well.
Oh, no. It would have gone, every time somebody refers me to that, it's like, that would have been a deal breaker.
Yeah.
So they, you choose the dress, they pay for it.
Okay.
So it is your dress. Except in my case, my husband, because I didn't know Johannesburg.
Yes.
So my husband asked her to help me look for the dress.
Yeah.
So, which we did, easy, beautiful dress, to be honest.
Yes.
And for safety, she took it home with her.
Yeah.
This is somewhere in September. And we were going to get married in January. And so a night before the wedding, the team from Johannesburg that is coming for the wedding comes with my dress.
Yes.
Okay. And when I opened the dress, same dress with a bit of more things. So what it looks like, she went home with her friend, they look at the dress, they like it, but it's missing on the bling, on the shiny stuff, right? And without asking me now, and they just took the dress to their friend in Mufulo, who knew how to pour these things. And so the dress was blingy now.
Yeah.
Including the shoes and the hat and everything. And the current Makoti would freak out.
Absolutely.
In my case, actually, I didn't. Actually, I thought, it's nicer.
Okay.
It's nicer. Never mind that she didn't ask me. But I think the symbol of it for me was she has already adopted me.
Yes.
She was just being a mother now.
Yeah.
And I can see my mother rocking up with my dress and going to somebody to do the same, right? And the fact that she was a mother-in-law makes no difference.
Yeah.
But I always tell my friends that, yes, I was getting married, the wedding is great, but my focus was on the marriage itself. Can I sign tomorrow? I'm quite eager to be the wife. And this dress is helpful, but it's not the main thing.
Yeah.
So no, my response to it was an unusual one.
Yeah.
Because people want, they say it's a deal breaker, and it wasn't.
You were not going to sweat the small stuff over your life's commitment. Yeah. So in also this is a theme that's coming out throughout the book in terms of how Mama Winnie had a career as a nurse. She worked, she had a family, but at the same time she dedicated herself to community work, and there's many organizations which was part of YWCA and you know, the Housewives. There's lots of those organizations, and I want us to bring it to today's society, today's career women, because more often than not we're confronted with this notion of how do you balance climbing the ladder, so to speak, and being an adequate wife, partner, and also raising children. How do you do that? And you give a very and I think that lesson that we all should hear, I think, from you when it comes to that, the older generation women and their careers, and where we are now as the younger women with careers and families. So
the one thing which one wants to be dismissive of is that the current career women will be strutting their stuff about, I'm a career woman and whatever. But those women too, they were career women. In fact, they had a harder life, much more harder life. So my mother-in-law was a nurse. You know how they work in the morning to evening, sometimes it's overnight.
Yes.
And they still have to grapple with this thing of children, right? But she was even in a better situation. Our mothers were domestic workers. You can imagine the lack of flexibility in them, and harder. But that was their career. And they have to bring up children as well.
Yeah.
So us today claiming that we are career women is misplaced. They were career women.
Yeah.
So that is the starting point. The second point is that in the midst of that, in different ways, they dealt with the societal disorders and they got involved in things. They were activists in the midst of this problem of doing both. They also got involved in that. In our times, I do say that while you are in finance or you are in whatever, there's still a challenge of building more CAs, for example. So join the Black Accounting Association. Join APSIP, Securities Investment Professionals. Join African Women CAs. There are challenges there. We need to churn out these professionals. If you're a lawyer, there's the Black Lawyers Association, there's a NADEL, they require time from you. We can't say today, because we have what looks like better jobs, we claim that the society is still not in trouble. Society is still in trouble. We still have to do that. But next to that, we still have families to bring up. Children are small and even more demanding now, because as we take them to the schools, they're expected to show up there at 12 o'clock midday. That time you have an exco at work because you want to, there's a mandate tomorrow for this bank to pitch for work somewhere. So there is pressure, right? Where then the family comes in and the mother-in-law comes in very strongly for me is that they are your support system. We don't seem to make use of this. They are available. All the grandmothers dote on their little ones. But this is what we do everywhere. If I have to leave my children behind, I'm traveling. All of a sudden, I think it's only my mother who can look after my children. For some reason, this one who actually brought up your husband, you think she's not capable of looking after your children. That time you live in Johannesburg, they're all here. You come from Cape Town. My mother is in Cape Town. Am I going to drive my children to Cape Town? No. What I'm saying is that we cut our noses here by actually excluding this mother-in-law from being your support system. She, in my case, you'll find in the book that she did a lot of that because she has been a professional before. She knows the struggle, and she's facing retirement, and so she would use the time to fill in the gaps for me. So when the children come back at 12:01, they have food, they have dinner, sometimes they've been washed. And so when you come back from work, even their homeworks have been looked at, and the things that have got to be responded in the books have been responded. And so all you have to do is to come and take them home and make their scarfing for tomorrow. That is giving lots of support. And the thing is that even when it goes to wash their ballets or their swimming, grandmothers do not mind doing that. And so the superwoman thing, you ban yourself when in fact you do have support. And so maybe we should shift our minds on this and actually see them as being a good support system because they love it anyway. And just give them the chance to be with the children. Because it doesn't say only you as a mother must go and watch ballet. Really? The other people who can show love as well.
True. And we're seeing, just to digress a little bit, a lot of women perhaps delaying having children because they want to pursue this one thing, which is the career, and maybe later on they think they will do the wife duties or the children duties, where in actual fact you are saying to us that the support is there, it's always been there, it's a matter of investing in those relationships. There's something important you spoke to Mama about. The women in Mama Winnie's era, they were faced with a strong apartheid government, which, there were no opportunities, but they were making opportunities, making do with very little that they had at the time. When we look now, the agency of women, for me, seems to be lacking in the middle class at least, and in these ages that we are at, 40, 30, and so on. Do you, in your view, because you interact with a lot of women organizations, do you think there's enough agency in women in getting the rest of society out of poverty and all the other societal ills that our grandmothers and our aunts before were trying to build in terms of a better society?
When I look at that, is the confusing thing for me there is that on the one hand, we are better than them in terms of resources, and that is why you'll find most of us are the new wage earners in a meaningful way from our families. And so on. We've got equipment, we've got laptops, we've got mobile phones, we've got more resources than they actually had. Now, that's a few of us who are in careers. They did not have that. And then you also even have voices in the boardrooms now, which you can use to push the boundaries and all of that. What we are not doing, though, is actually still keep in touch with the problems themselves. Our view of the problems is artificial. And that is why we are not solving it. You still have strong NGOs, for example, because the NGO society is very useful. The difference with the NGOs now and the NGOs then, in a funny way, while we have more access to resources, it's the time where they are less funded. So the NGOs today are struggling with funding, they're struggling with support, they're struggling with resources, but these are the people who are doing the real work on the ground. And they don't have our voices, and they don't have access to us, as in actually making it work. So the blind people are still blind. In fact, Mama's gripe was that it's still taking a long time to deal with blindness. It's not getting there, but those problems are still there. And so we are not linking our positions to the problems themselves, because there's a vacuum there in terms of it's happening there. Now you're staying in Sentin, and you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
When in fact, the issues of security, the issues of children without parents, the issues of rapes, we were looked after by the whole community in the absence of your mother. We don't seem to be doing that. We were brought up by every mother in your street. Right now, you bring your own little two princesses within your high walls, right? So it's a mind shift for me that we need to actually we need to take ourselves back to that place where they were, because this time we even have resources, we have access, we've got positions, we've got boardrooms to influence in terms of these things, but they are doing much worse than during their time. We're not giving energy to they worked 24 hours out of 24 hours. In our case, I need my siesta, I need my
me time.
It's lots of that. Not to say that we mustn't, but I think we're doing too much of that. And one thing I wanted to say is that those problems were under apartheid. Now we are not under apartheid, but the impact of those things are with us. And for us to solve them, we still need to go and study that thing of what happened under apartheid. So what are we transforming exactly? So the professional of today does not understand that for me to go to Wits, I need to get a permission of a Minister of Interior Affairs. Then couldn't just go. So today there's no such a thing. That was an apartheid law. This time there's no apartheid law. But you need to go back and say, what then did it do? Why are we short of CAs? Why are we short of engineers? Why are we short of because CAs, engineers were done in these universities where you needed to get a permission to go to. That's how apartheid controlled how less of most of these professions we have. In that case, we know now we are reversing that thing. We need to understand what we are reversing so that it must never ever happen again. And so close that loop, untie those knots, and close it so much that if we were to have apartheid again, it must not find a
minimal
place.
Impact.
So
your call to action, Mama, to us as women today is that there's more work to be done. There's more work to be done.
There's lots of work.
There's another many lessons from Mama Winnie. As you share a story in the book, how she solved conflict, how she interacted with your father-in-law, other members of society, and what comes through very strongly is how she was strong, but she had a softer approach of dealing with things. And it lends itself to being somebody who leads with more heart than head and who leads with kindness. And I thought, Baba, it's an important thing to speak about in these platforms for families' sake, for relationships' sake, and also for the workplace. Because more often than not, women are seen as weak, quiet, they're not assertive enough because they don't speak in a certain way. In fact, this happened to me on Friday, if I may confess, and someone said, you're very quiet, and I'm thinking, but there was nothing to say at that particular point in time. When it's time to speak, definitely you'll hear my voice. But what I'm getting at is that how do we take this lesson from Mama Winnie for our relationships, for our workplaces, this leading with kindness and leading with more heart than head?
I think you get more out of people if you show some compassion, and they feel the need to please you because they know that you'll break the bank for them. So as you are directing people into all sorts of places, because you want ABC to be achieved, you need to have kindness around it as well, while also firm and instructing. So for example, Umama, she was very close to her children, extremely close to her children. They look like friends. But in that, there was no confusion as to who's the leader of the house. Absolutely not. And it's a skill because she got more out of her children as a result. Cannot disappoint her. You cannot let her down because she cares. She worries about my future. And so is the boss at work. She shows that I was a Standard Merchant Bank and our boss was Jack O'Murray. And he actually did that. He led with kindness. He led with a lot of compassion, but was very tough at the same time, and didn't want to leave that behind. So I think that it's an important character that show support but show leadership and have a lot more compassion about people, and when things fall apart, be there to help them pick up again.
Okay.
Because you are investing in them.
Yeah.
Be a good listener also, hear more what people are saying. So my mother-in-law was a leader of the family. Family was made of many things, men, women, and her husband was not the oldest. He was in the middle of it, but no family meeting would happen there without her, because she would come provide whatever wisdom she can with a lot of compassion and kindness, but she was also a good listener. Yeah, can you listen a little bit to what people are saying? And that is also required.
Okay. So you've been in your career, Mama, a woman of firsts in terms of you get promoted first, you did this first in South Africa as a black woman. And here is a challenge that keeps on coming up, and more often than not, that when women then ascend to these roles of CEOs, COOs, whatever the case might be, chairperson of the board, why is it that we tend to lead with the male borrowed characteristics as opposed to leading as how women should be leading as themselves? Your views on that, because this is, as I'm saying, it's something that keeps on coming up. People want to emulate what men do in those roles because they find them there. And if you are not, it's perhaps a little bit of weakness. I don't know. Yeah.
I think because we're coming into these roles, and as you say, you are the only person for a while.
Yeah.
And you are also learning.
Yes.
There's that transition where you're trying to master the subject. And when you do master the subject, the expectation though from us women is that, can you bring others along then?
Okay.
And this, you are not doing it as a favor to the ones that you are bringing along. You are doing it, your own legacy, you want it to be left behind.
Okay.
Number one. Number two, you are a woman in a boardroom of 20 men. Surely that diversity you bring into this boardroom is important for this business.
Okay.
And for it to work, you can't be the only woman in the system. You have even yourself, you need to be guided, even as a board member or even as a chairman. You must be able to sit down with the women of Nedbank and have a chat about what does it mean not to have an ATM and you are in Lusikisiki, in Transkei. As a woman, what does it say?
Yeah.
What does it mean not to have two financial services in one way or another as a woman? What should I do within the Nedbank as a chairman of the credit committee to deal with the fact that women always fail this test of the credit committees?
Yeah.
What is it in that credit process that makes them fail? But you can also do that after you've learned how the credit committee works, how the credit process works. Unfortunately, that transition of learning is just you and the man. And you have to make it work for you and understand it so that you can drag in the women into the banking system without collapsing the banking system itself.
Sure.
This is a bit of a quagmire.
Yeah.
Which is then why it's important that you can't be the only one in the system. You've got to bring other women into the system so that you all can make it work for women, while at the same time you are perfecting at the banking thing.
Yeah.
And you are actually making it work for the bank as well. Tomorrow, we are now not there, because I'm 65 now.
Yeah.
I always like to go back to the boards where I am and see myself in it.
Okay.
And you can only do that by bringing the others along. You're not doing them a favor. When you're mentoring people, you are actually building your own legacy. You want to leave it behind. And that's what you are doing.
Okay, no, thank you, Mama. You say in the book that you are the kind of aunt who will not buy Christmas clothes and toys and that, but you will contribute to the school fees of your nieces and nephews, which is something that we see in Mama Winnie as well, in terms of her drive for education and her, very much progressive in terms of wanting all the children to be educated. The role of women in education, given where we are again as South Africa and what we can do in the little corners we are, back to the agency issue.
So I mentioned that about Christmas presents because we can't continue complaining about I'm from poverty, my background is a sorry one, sad. You've got to break this thing, right?
Yeah.
And so when I look at my nieces and nephews, that's what comes up in my own head, that there is no child next to me who will stay at home and not go to school because there are no school fees. That is my role, however it looks like.
Okay.
Even if, for example, it looks like the parent is irresponsible, she can actually, or he can actually afford and stuff like that. For me, I have this thing that while we're debating this irresponsible behavior, can the child continue with school?
Okay.
Because time comes and goes, and umntana who doesn't pass matric is problematic, because at least you can say tertiary, you can always brush your certificate and go back, but at least do matric. The one about beautiful clothes and stuff like that, that's for the parents to do that.
Yeah.
They must do it, they must sit to finish, but school, definitely not. Because selfishly, I'm saying, for my system, let me cut this poverty thing.
Yeah.
And let's all here be all sorts of qualifications. And some you find that these children, especially from the poor places, have got so much to give to school.
Yes.
They really want it. And they are the ones who commit from first year to fourth year, because they understand too that I'm the chance of survival here in this family. So give them that kind of support. I'm quite frantic about that.
Yeah.
So our roles, I think as women, is education is everything for us, because even when we look at our own issues of GPV and being ill-treated and so on, sometimes we stick it out because that's the only opportunity you have to drive this car, no matter how horrible this man is, because you yourself are not equipped to look after yourself.
Yeah.
So the financial independence, the education, all of that is very important. All of that must not take away from the fact that you must build a family, and that is important.
Thank you, Mama. As we conclude, there's something also I think that is quite important that you raise in the book about from matriarch to matriarch is what I call it. You come into a family where Manoche is your mother-in-law's mother-in-law, the grandmother to your husband, Andrew Serobe, and your mother-in-law then takes over those reins. And I think that this is something that when women enter into the families through marriage, perhaps it's not something that is top of mind, that one day you are going to be the one who's carrying the family legacy in terms of a matriarch. Maybe share some thoughts with us in as far as that is concerned, because I think it may raise some thinking and mind shift in how we enter the families as women through marriage.
So in that matriarchal sense, because it's a family system from many years ago, and they do things in a particular way. What happens when somebody dies? What happens when the child is born? There are rituals that are done and all of that.
Yes.
And there's a leader in the family that must make sure all these things are actually done. In the case of the mother, the nurturing that comes with it is that, firstly, you know how our mothers would drag us to church?
Yes.
Wear bobby socks and your things go there. You're just following the mother.
Yes.
There's that stage where the child is very close to the mother because she's the one who's taking them all over the place.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Even when it comes to the traditions of this home, these children need to be around. What happens with death and what happens with the black cloth or the either they cut a piece of your hair and stuff like that, while you are wondering why are they doing that, can you allow your children to be subjected to this? It's not harmful. And teach them, make them see what gets done. This is now the role of the mother. And yes, there is a husband somewhere who whatever, but the point here for me though is that the sum total of this tradition sits very well with this mother. And even it was my mother-in-law who would direct everyone about, it's a male cow or it's a whatever.
Yeah.
And so I learned from that. She learned from her mother-in-law. Today, I pretty much know everything.
Okay.
And one of the reasons is that these children, you are going to leave children behind here. Whether you divorce tomorrow or something, or your husband dies, and you are going to lead in this family because it is now your children who are part of this system. They have nobody else to look up to in terms of what gets done. So you end up having to hand over these batons simply because this is generational now. And one more point, viewer, is that even as you enhance some of those things, enhance them with knowledge at least. Know them first. Then do something better with it.
Yeah.
Once, for example, this thing of standing in the fire with the black pots out there at 4 a.m., whatever. It's not tradition. It is the infrastructure that they had.
At the time,
It has nothing to do with amasiko now.
Yeah.
It was just what it was.
Yeah.
Okay, today, what have you got? You got a big AMC pot this size, and just plug it on the wall, it cooks. There's no fire that's required. Just buy an AMC pot and do it. Because all it is doing is making food for lunch and whatever. That pot is the same size as that big black 3-foot thing on that woodwind fire there. And it cooks very well anyway. I hope AMC pays me commission for this. I'm giving that as an example that when you shift and you have the bain-maries to keep your food warm, and you're not breaking no tradition. You've just enhanced what was there. The tradition is intact. But you slaughter something in the morning, you use that liver for this, or you take that gallbladder to wash or something, don't change that. That's not for you to change.
Yes.
But those where you can enhance, you can do right without breaking the walls of this family. But the generational issues must never fall in my hands.
Okay.
You are the outsider here. And I think being an outsider, you owe them the kind of respect to these people. Respect their traditions, respect their systems, and make better where you can. But don't come today and tell them to change tomorrow. Sit back at least, understand what is being done here, and give him the ultimate respect that it must have, and show good attitude to it.
Okay.
And show intention to learn, even as you ask questions as to why you're slaughtering a goat. What are you trying to address? Ask it with a lot of respect.
Yeah.
Don't say, oh, please, I want my Cornish hen or turkey or something like that. No.
Yeah.
They're not turkey. They're doing goats. Ask them about goats and learn from that. And I think, just to say lastly that we might be actually the custodians of these family traditions. And we must not drop them, because you are going to leave your own children behind.
True.
Either in a good place or in a mess. Because you tried to rearrange something and you did not replace it with something more useful.
Yeah.
If it's not broken, don't fix it.
Absolutely. And I think, Mama, that this may require a broader discussion, because in essence, what I'm hearing you say is that society in South Africa today is where it is. Yes, there's collective traumas from apartheid system, GBV, and many other things that have happened to society. However, the role of mothers in ensuring that we have a just and a healthy society cannot be ignored, because the mothers have this responsibility of passing on this knowledge and ensuring that there's healthy relationships in families. And this requires a lot of emotional intelligence, self-awareness. You speak a lot about, self-awareness and self-esteem, and what lends itself to being able to know when to accept things, when to let things go, when to move, when to act, how to speak, when to speak, which is a tact. And as I have said before to the people listening to us, is that this is a toolkit that can help someone navigate that relationship, but also other relationships, not necessarily that between a mother and a daughter-in-law. Your final thoughts, Mama, in terms of perhaps some of the critical lessons or wisdom you can leave us with from Mama Winnie Serobe as your very loving mother-in-law, from what I read from here, your best friend, your mother, and everything else in between.
Maybe two things I can say, maybe three. One, on the side of the mother-in-law, when your son gets married, can we make it work for him by just embracing this child? This is somebody else's daughter.
Yeah.
She has family. She has rahadis also. Can we not treat them like they are from the air, when in fact they have homes, they have parents, and so on? Be that parent, extend your life as being this parent, and build her from being 21, which she was, to being the big woman that she was. Do that, invest in her. It might be that might be the child who might look after you at your weakest state.
Sure.
On the daughters-in-law side, can we let go of this arrogance thing that I'm not here for these people, I'm here for my husband. Poor thing, he's part of this system. And so there's only so much that love can do now. And can you not subject him to having to have to choose between you and his family? His idea of bringing you here was help me build my family.
Yeah.
And so when you subject him to this, choose between, you said you love me and I'm pretty and whatever, can you just give him some slack?
Yeah.
And support him as he is also growing in this family. He's just as young as you are. And can we just do that? I think thirdly, maybe the last one, is that whatever we are doing, if our family structures are not in good order, if our family fabric is destroyed, and at the same time, South Africa is trying to play in this global stage now. We are meeting people from all their countries, Sweden, Germany, and so on and so on. They keep their traditions, and they are not abandoning them.
Yeah.
As we progress up, can we keep our traditions? Because once we're in the room with 10 other nations, very soon you're going to find, as South Africa maybe have nothing to show. Because in trying to fit, we are almost abandoning our own traditions. So the people from Germany, they will hit you with their Bavaria traditions before you even know.
Yeah.
People from the US, they will throw you with their Thanksgiving things, which is not our thing.
Yeah.
And Switzerland, same. People from the East, they will do the same. Us in South Africa, especially us as blacks, because we want to please, we think progress for us is being English or is being whatever.
Yeah.
No, progress for us actually is being us. And can we just do that right, while at the same time we are actually competing head on and winning the game? Wherever you saw our legal team with the ICJ thing, you can't do better than that legal team. So we have our strong law, we've got our strong finance, we've got our strong engineers, we've got our strong medical. We are not found wanting. We can compete head on.
Yeah.
Where we are weak is that in progressing, we are dropping our own traditions. And so we look like weak.
Yeah.
Because when the stakes are high, each one is going to come back to their own traditions and homes. And there's nothing not cool about it. And there's something very cool about it, actually.
Yeah.
Because when I have a meeting in the US or whatever, I don't even say I come from Cape Town, which I come from Cape Town. We are originally from Transkei.
Yeah.
I put that on the table, that I come from Transkei.
Yeah.
Let them deal with it.
Qendane is
Because
here.
I'm from Qendane now. I must tell these people in California.
Yes.
Because when I say I'm from Cape Town, they can relate to Cape Town as same, right?
Yes.
But if I want to make sure that they are not confused, I say I'm from Qendane, which is true.
Yes.
I'm from Qendane. They must then ask me how to pronounce it and where is it in the map. What is the nearest town? I will tell them what is the nearest town is Butterworth. They also don't know Butterworth now. What is the nearest town to Butterworth? Maybe Mthatha? Oh, no, they don't know that. So say East London. Oh, yes, we've heard about East London, but they're not sure whether it's East London from London or our East London. What I'm saying is that in that circle of people, your fallback position must be your own tradition, must be of who you are, while you are the top actuary from South Africa, because you've also written the exams in London too.
Yeah.
So their intelligence to intelligence same.
Sure.
But this one of the tradition, we are weak, and so is the family fabric is weak.
Yeah.
And so I think that is what I would put on the table. It does not take away from your high professional sense. It does not take away from your sophistication. It does not say drink umqombothi at random. It does not say that. You can have the champagne, you can have whatever they're having. When the chips are down, it's going to come back to who exactly are you?
Yes.
So you are not from London. You are from South Africa. Even in South Africa, you have to go back to, I'm from Venderland, by the way. When you say Tohoyando, say, where is that? Describe it. Say it. It's a place of avocados. Tell them that. It's oh, okay. Yeah, do that. We need to be strong on this. We need to be strong on the family things.
Yeah.
We need to be strong on the traditional things. They are not fashionable. Yeah, they're not fashionable.
There's a lot to talk about, Mama, in this book. It looks like a very short read. It's very small, but it's packed with so much wisdom and lessons. And I do implore everyone to read and get the knowledge that we've got. As we conclude, Mama, I just want to read something here and to thank you very much for coming through to be with us today. One of the things I want to leave everyone with, which emphasizes what you've just said now, is that on page 35, where I think you're answering someone's question on Ask Gloria, which is where some of the lessons are packed. It is also important to remember that the children you will have will carry both your bloodlines. A relationship of conflict with your in-laws will not help your children or your husband. And I think this speaks to what Mama has spoken about in terms of the family structures, building that relationship and having a teachable spirit as somebody who's coming into the family, having the emotional intelligence and the awareness as coming to this family. Mama Gloria Serobe, we are very, very grateful that you've honored us by coming here. We are grateful for the knowledge that you've shared with us. It goes a long way. You've written a book to honor Mama Winnie Serobe, which we honor as well as the women that have come before us. But also we want to honor her and honor you for giving us lessons that not only help us in family, but also help us in business. When you wrote this, I think you were only thinking about your mother-in-law and passing homage to her, but we have learned more than just about the family. So we want to take this opportunity, Mama, to say thank you, keep sharing the knowledge, and we're looking forward to more and more engagements with you.
Thank you very much, Roy. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
You've been listening to the E-Lounge with me and Mama Gloria Serobe. Please do tune in to a whole host of other E-Lounges as we share lessons that are very much anchored on our values as the Gautrain Management Agency, as one of our knowledge share platforms, those values of caring, learning, leadership, and excellence. And always remember that, as Professor Marala says, people who want to lead should actually read. Thank you.